back to the channel. Today I am walking you through how I am budgeting for my horses in 2026. And this isn't, a Pinterest perfect life kind of scenario. This is real life, how I'm managing my finances when it comes to my horses, because y'all, things are expensive. I live on a ranch in central Alberta. I have 2 quarter horse geldings. I buy hay once a year in the fall to get me through the winter. And I also know that this year Diesel is likely going to have some hefty vet bills that I'm going to need to budget for. So I'm going to share with you how I'm budgeting for my horses, what categories I plan for, and even if your situation looks completely different than mine, why you should be considering budgeting for your horse as well. I don't want to scare anyone away from having horses, but I do want to paint a realistic picture of the fact that this is a very expensive hobby, and if you want to avoid financial hardship, you need to plan for this. And before we get rolling too much, I do just want to highlight my credibility a little bit here. So 1, I'm a lifelong horse owner, but 2, I am a CPA. I am a designated accountant. So I know a thing or two about money. Obviously, I'm not a financial planner or anything like that, but I feel like I am pretty darn knowledgeable when it comes to finances, money, budgeting, all those things. So take that for what it's worth. For a lot of people, board is going to be their biggest line item when it comes to their horses. For me, my situation's a little bit different. We live on a ranch that we own, so I don't have a monthly board bill, so to speak, like some people would. But for anyone who owns property, you will know that there are never-ending expenses when it comes to having your own place. So I need to budget for things like fence repairs and upgrades, shelter and barn maintenance, equipment upkeep, and general property repairs. Things get older, they start to break down. I know this coming year we're likely going to have to replace 2 automatic waterers. I have no idea how much that's going to cost, so I need to look into that. So just all those miscellaneous property repairs. It's like, great, I don't have to pay board for my horse, but there's like a huge asterisk beside that on everything that it takes to own a full-fledged ranch. And the thing about that too is board is typically monthly. The costs that I incur here on the ranch are kind of sporadic, sometimes unexpected, and sometimes quite large of an expense. So that can definitely make it a bit hard to budget, but we've been here long enough at this point that we kind of have a feel for what it looks like now and kind of can budget accordingly across the scope of an entire year. So for you, if you're budgeting, let's say you do board, you would take your monthly board times 12. That's going to be your annual board cost for your horse. If you're new to horses, you have no idea how much that costs. I'm not even going to throw a number out there because even here in central Alberta, the cost can change a lot. I previously kept Junior just on a farm, in a pasture. I had to take care of feeding. I didn't have access to an arena. I was paying $50 a month. If you are at a well-established, fancier boarding facility where people are doing things for you, you have access to various facilities, it is going to be a lot more expensive than $50 a month. I can guarantee that. And it also, I'm sure, depends on where you live on how much board is going to cost you as well. Another one of my big expenses during the year is hay, which I pay for my hay once a year in the fall. Because I know that bill is coming, I do need to plan for that ahead of time. I know that in late October, early November, I'm going to have a big hay bill that I'm going to need to pay for. Also in my hay and feed category, I budget for things like, my annual hay purchase, my mineral that I buy my horses, and the supplemental feed that I feed my horses as well. Obviously here in Alberta, yes, we do feed hay from November-ish all the way through probably close to somewhere in April. The remaining months they are on full grass, which again, I'm not paying for pasture because it's on our property. So I don't have to factor that in at all. For your situation, in a lot of places where they board, the board cost might include hay, but it might not. And on top of that, if you're feeding your horse any sort of supplements or anything like that, or any grain, you're gonna have to take that into consideration as well. Again, there's no way that I can put a price range on that because it's going to range so much depending what your situation is and what your horse's needs are. One thing I will just say, start of the year, great time to reevaluate what you're feeding your horses. I think we as horse people tend to over supplement our horses. We want our horses to be as healthy as possible, and marketing companies are so good at marketing to us that we need XYZ supplement. In a lot of cases, you are 100% wasting your money. So definitely a good time as part of your budgeting process, consider what supplements you're feeding your horse and whether your horse legitimately needs them. Next category that I budget for is farrier work, and this is definitely a non-negotiable. I know that throughout the course of the year, depending on what time of year it is, my farrier is going to be out here every 6 to 8 weeks. 6 weeks in the summertime and closer to 8 weeks in the wintertime. I know that that's a non-negotiable. Taking care of my horse's feet is very, very important, and so this expense is like, it has to happen. Right now I have my 2 horses. They both are just barefoot, so it's pretty easy. It's not like I'm having the extra stuff of any sort of shoeing or even just corrective footwork. It's been the same price for a very long time, and I'd like to tip my farrier as well, just make sure that he's happy. He keeps coming out here. My horses are pretty good for him, so I think he doesn't mind coming out here, but that's something, it's very easy to budget because I can look at the calendar, kind of go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, he's gonna come out. 8 weeks from that, he's gonna come out, and then we're probably getting into the 6-week window. It is very easy to plan exactly when that's gonna happen throughout the course of the year. Yes, farrier costs are predictable, but they can add up, especially if you have more than one horse, and if you're shoeing your horse, it does add up. So it is very important that you budget for that as well. And then we get to the vet category, which I'm honestly dreading a little bit this year. Last September, I had a pretty big and unexpected vet bill for Diesel. We had some x-rays and ultrasounds done on him, which that obviously was not expected, and that was expensive. So I kind of have 2 buckets of vet care this year. I have my routine vet costs, which that would be things like the regular vaccinations that they'll need, getting teeth floated, anything like that. That's just the routine stuff that I know I'm gonna call my vet out here regardless of what happens. He needs to be out here to do that kind of annual, semi-annual work on them. The second bucket is a little bit more unpredictable and also likely a lot more expensive. Diesel is, last time my vet was here, we kind of ended off with Diesel has some health things that are going to require some additional procedures in order for him to be 100%. My vet did not give me a quote or an estimate on how much that's going to cost, but he did say everything's fixable, and because Diesel is young and I want to still enjoy him and I want him to have a good quality of life, I'm obviously going to willingly incur those costs for him. It's just, like I said, it's a little bit unknown on how much it's going to cost. The thing is, I'm not pretending it's not going to happen. I am proactively planning for these costs. So if you are trying to budget for vet care, I would say consider what regular maintenance vet care you need, and then have a second vet care bucket that's kind of like an emergency fund. If you have insurance on your horse, that's great, but if something happens, you're likely going to have to pay a deductible. So what is that deductible? At least have that in your emergency fund, and just consider, like, when it comes to horses, it's how much are you willing to spend to fix whatever's wrong. Obviously, we do have the cost benefit. I'm dancing around the bush here. There are cases where paying a vet to do something, it doesn't make sense. You need to figure out what that is for you. I would say write that down, because if you are in the moment, something is wrong with your horse, you don't think straight. This is a whole other topic, but it is very real and something that we do need to think about. How much am I willing to spend on my horse when it comes to medical emergencies? Write it down. Trust me, write it down. Last thing that I'll say on the vet side of things, just consider the horse that you have. If you have an older horse, if you have a horse that's coming back from injury, if you have a very high level performance horse, generally those categories are going to naturally have higher vet bills throughout the course of a year. Just take that into consideration. Again, it's not about, just pretending those costs aren't going to come up. It's planning for it. And, if those costs don't come up, great, right? Like that's awesome. You have this extra cash sitting there, but I'd rather it be that situation than being in a really bad spot and now having a credit card bill rung up because you weren't prepared. And that kind of rolls into what I just briefly touched on, like insurance and emergency funds. I'm not going to say one way or the other whether you should have insurance on your horse or not. That's totally not my area of expertise. I will just say I personally get a couple of different pieces of insurance on my horses through the Alberta Equestrian Federation. So it's just a provincial membership, and they offer various insurance policies as part of being a member. So I do have that. Beyond that, I just have cash set aside, ready to go in the event of emergency. I'm relying more on an emergency fund as opposed to an insurance payout in the event that something happens to my horses. Either way, I would say really give it some thought. Talk to people about insurance, get various quotes if that's the route you want to go. If you're going the emergency fund route and you're going to cash flow it yourself, think about, again, how much are you willing to spend on your horse in the event of a medical emergency? You really need to be clear on that if that's the route that you're going, and really work to not touch that fund. Like, it is there for emergencies only. A big piece of that too, yes, set it away, don't touch it. Also, don't put it so it's hard to get. We need it easily accessible, so we don't want it invested in something that either it's impossible to get it out, or you're going to pay a huge penalty for pulling it out, or you're going to trigger taxes if you pull it out. We want it accessible. Great if it's earning a bit of interest or something like that, but we need it accessible. We need it there in the event that something happens. I always think about future Katrina. Future Katrina would be very, very relieved. If something happened to my horses, I'm already a frazzled mess, right? Diesel had the littlest thing happen to him and I was a wreck. So I can only imagine if something really bad happened to him, and on top of that, I'm worried about finances. That seems like the worst combination of stress ever. So I just think of, I'm doing future Katrina a favor. Again, if an emergency doesn't pop up, great. But in the event that it does, I'm well prepared. I can focus on helping my horse, getting him better, whatever the case may be, and not having the additional stress of finances. Next category is tack and equipment, which I feel like this category can be a little bit fun. I mean, who doesn't love buying tack? But I feel like it can maybe sneak up on people. They don't really think about this category, but for the tack and equipment category, I budget for any sort of tack repairs or replacements. When was it? 2 years ago, I had to replace my 5-star pad. I don't recall if I definitely made a video about it. It's my second most watched video at this point. Diesel broke out in what looked like some sort of rain rot, and it was literally because of my saddle pad. So I tried to clean my saddle pad, it did not work, so I literally threw it in the garbage and I had to buy a new one. 5-star pads are not cheap, So things like that, like either getting tack that you don't have or replacement of old tack. Budgeting for seasonal gear like blankets. I'm not blanketing my horses this year. I haven't as of yet. Junior's blanket, he has, like in the event that he needs to wear it, it's fine. It does have a fairly large rip in it, so need to consider either getting it fixed up or replacing that, because even if I'm not blanketing them, there are certain situations where it may come up that I do need it and I need a usable blanket on hand. Also need to budget for just things like grooming supplies. One big one is show sheen. I like to have show sheen on hand, not because I'm showing, but because it makes brushing out their mane and tail easier. Obviously that's highly aesthetic, but I like my horses to look good. And given that it is expensive, that, you know, things like that can add up over the course of a year. You need to budget for training equipment. I use halters constantly. I feel like I'm constantly losing like my training sticks or my whips. I have no idea where they go. Things like that. So even if I'm not buying a new saddle, which I have no intention of buying a new saddle, all of those things add up over the course of the year. And to be honest, as a horse girl, you go into a place like, especially Crossfield, we have Irvine Tack and Trailer. It's the largest tack store, I think, in Canada. It's like an hour and a half away. If I go there, like, I'm not gonna buy it. I'm not gonna buy something, right? So just knowing yourself, knowing that, oh, I might buy a new bit, or maybe I just splint boots. Ooh, yeah, definitely want to buy like sport medicine boots, like, ooh, and they're expensive. So just knowing that as a horse person, you're likely gonna get suckered into buying something new here and there, like budget for it. So you're not, again, stressing when the credit card bill comes at the end of the month. The next category is training, lessons, and clinics. So kind of like the education piece, I guess. For you, you might be putting a horse into training, budgeting for, I feel like trainers are probably open about how much they charge. I honestly don't know. Lessons, I'm guessing that varies widely from coach to coach. Clinics vary a lot, especially on like who the clinician is and the length of the clinic, if you need to travel for the clinic. Those are all things to consider. For myself, I'm hoping to do both lessons and clinics in 2026 with Diesel. So I kind of need to plan for that. I would want to aim for one clinic, I think. I honestly haven't given this a whole lot of thought yet because I feel like we're still in the doldrums of January. But I think I'd like to go to one clinic kind of earlier on in early summer, late spring kind of thing, and some lessons. I really, really, really think we could benefit from getting some consistent lessons. So I'm going to budget for that for sure. And I'm trying to view those costs as kind of an investment. Working on Diesel, getting better as a rider, getting him more experience, like that adds to Diesel's value. I don't plan on selling him at any point, but I just feel like it's an investment in him as a horse and in me as a rider and just my well-being too. So I kind of view it like, yes, it's a cost that's totally optional, but I'm trying to view it as an investment that I want to make in the two of us. So I think everyone can benefit from lessons. So if it is something that you can afford, I would definitely encourage you to budget for lessons and just take advantage of someone else's experience because you can learn so much faster from someone else. So consider your plans in terms of the education bucket and budget from there. From there, we have kind of like the travel category. And again, this is going to vary widely from people. Like you have Olympic riders who are traveling across the globe with their horses. I'm sure they're not the ones paying for it. It's the owners paying for it. But if you're traveling to shows, you might be going from state to state. You might be staying in state. How much you're showing, like where you're going, all that stuff. It's going to vary widely for people. Even if you're not showing or anything like that, consider, do you need to haul to get to the vet or anything like that? I'm fortunate that my vet comes to the ranch, so I don't have to worry about that. If you have a trailer, are there costs associated with your trailer, like getting tires replaced, if you have a loan on your trailer, the truck that's pulling that trailer, the fuel to get there, lodging. Like, there's so much in this category and it adds up so freaking fast. Just definitely some food for thought. I would definitely say if you are working on a budget and you have stuff going on in this travel category, go to ChatGPT and say, hey, this is kind of my plan. Can you give me a list of all the potential costs associated with this? It'll give you a ton of categories and you can kind of go from there on how much you're going to need to budget for this category. I would just say, I would encourage your pocketbook or your wallet to be a little thick because, like I said, costs here add up very, very fast. I also have a miscellaneous random category. I feel like there's just weird things that pop up throughout the course of a year when it comes to being a horse owner. Just wanting a bit of a buffer with that, just again, so I'm fully prepared, I'm not scrambling, I'm not having undue financial stress because I didn't prepare properly. I'm trying to think of things that would come up in this category that are just miscellaneous. Maybe if there's just like price increases, like maybe your farrier comes to you and says like, hey, I'm giving myself a raise, you need to pay me more. Yeah, just random things that I think just having a budget line for miscellaneous would be helpful as well. And once you've gone through all of your categories, look at kind of your total estimated cost, your monthly average, and how much you're gonna start needing to put into your emergency fund on a recurring basis to get that where it needs to be. I feel like looking at especially the annual cost can be a little bit like, oh my gosh, like I have such an expensive hobby. But how many times have I said this today? It is so much better to be prepared, to be planning, to have the money in hand so that, you know, when the time comes when you need to incur those costs, you are fully prepared. Horses are supposed to be fun. We don't need additional stress from the finance side of things. And let's be honest, there are a lot of other things that I could be doing with my money that are a lot worse. So, you know, on a positive note, I'm spending it on something that's bringing me joy, and that is a really important part of my life. As I've said throughout this video, horse ownership looks different for everyone. Everyone's costs are gonna look a little bit different. Definitely, it's worth sitting down, going through your specific situation and budgeting. Obviously, my situation is gonna look different from your situation, but it's always a good idea to plan ahead of time. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you're not too sad about how expensive horses are. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. You can follow me everywhere at Strong in the Saddle. And until next time, remember, it's always a good day to ride.